Okay, go ahead.
All right, I think we're now good.
All right. With that, Commissioner Didier and Cook are in our offices. Keith and Karen are in the commission room handling the phone and computer. We have Kyle and Barry in their office, and Daryl and Sheila over in their office. So with that, we'll start with you, Kyle, on wherever you'd like to start.
Okay, well, maybe in Mr. Cook, if it's all right, and I had a conversation with Keith about this earlier. There were 3 funds that we are slated to talk about, but there's a couple of others that we have involvement with that I went through and looked on the schedule, and there wasn't any other department that was going to talk about them. So I thought maybe when we're done with the 3 that we're scheduled to talk about, we can just real briefly touch base on those.
Okay. Commissioner Peck just signed on, so thank you.
All right.
All right.
Hi, Kyle. Yeah. So maybe we'll just start in order with the ones that were listed for. And the first one is a budget number 187, and that's the Veterans Relief Fund. And so and I'll let Tammy talk about what the budget, what the fund has accrued, and what we've spent. I think, just being straight up with you guys, this is one of the funds where I think that we've struggled a little bit with. Some of it, I think, centers around COVID, of course, and the fact that our doors have been closed. And I think that, we've done okay reaching out to some of the younger vets, but the system, for the older vets, that aren't maybe as comfortable using electronic devices, hasn't been as effective. And so, we've worked on trying to come up with some strategies on how we're going to address that. Again, we've had some issues with the advisory board. I think I've talked to some of you guys about that. We struggled with some participation, and we're in the process right now of soliciting new membership. My hope is that we'll have a new advisory board set in place to go January 1. We've indicated, we've reached out to the current advisory board members, asking if there's any interest in continuing in an advisory capacity, but we haven't received a response from them. And so as it stands right now, we've got 3 applications. I think the 3 that we have are very qualified to sit sort of on the board. But that's something that we'll continue to reach out for. So right now, maybe what I'll do is I'll let Tammy talk just a little bit about the what the fund is, the growth of the fund and what's been expended, and certainly if you guys have any other questions.
How many are you looking for to fill the board?
5.
Okay.
And so currently none of the board members, I sent a letter to each of them. The original term was for 2 years. This was something that we'd hoped to address at the beginning of the year. Then COVID hit, and we had some good participation from during a couple of meetings, but the last maybe 3 meetings we've had, it's primarily been my staff and maybe one advisory board member. And so after the last meeting, I called Keith and we had a little bit of a conversation. I think I sent you guys an email, kind of addressing what some of my concerns are. I sent a letter to the advisory board and expressed my gratitude for the commitment that they've had over the last 2 or 3 years. Asking if any of them, although their term was for 2 years, asking if any of them wanted to continue to please let me know, and that we would be addressing that at a future meeting. I haven't received any response. What we'll likely do is schedule another meeting and invite all of them and hope that there's some attendance. And again, currently right now we've got 3 applications. So, we hope to get additional applications so that we can have, that in place and ready to go to the new year.
Well, keep us in touch. I know there's a group of veterans that meet for coffee every morning up in Continental, so,
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to stop in there yet, but if you're still looking for some more, I may stop in and just plant the seed with them, see what they think.
Yeah, that would be great. And if there's any that are interested, just give them my contact information. I'd love to talk with them about, what that would entail. And we hope even kind of once some of the COVID stuff, restrictions lift, if it's more convenient for the board to meet, electronically, and I felt like we were going to have some good participation. We held one video meeting, Zoom meeting, and we had really good attendance when COVID first hit, and all the board members thought that it was way more convenient than trying to schedule a time to meet. And so I told them, I said, hey, I know everyone's busy, schedules get busy. If this is something, once the COVID restrictions lift, that we can address, make it easier to meet. We can continue to do that, and but then our participation's dwindled off a little bit. And
Okay, well, okay, it happens when you call a meeting and you get any participation. So
okay, well, I'll let you talk. I'm sorry, I missed a question.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, those applications, do they need to go to you or go to Karen?
They can really go to either. I'm sure Karen will get them to me if they go to her.
Well, vice versa, because she hasn't received any from any veterans, right, Karen?
Correct.
Yeah, we've received 3. My office has received 3.
Could you share those with Karen?
You bet.
So we stay on the same page? Okay.
Yep, definitely. Okay, I'm gonna kind of point the camera here at Tammy and let her talk finances.
okay.
I hold all the money, so that's what it is.
Got big hands.
That's right. So anyway, as of September, the veterans balance is at $317,022. We currently spent in 2020 $17,227. Roughly, we get revenues for the year of roughly $115,000 per year. So that's been kind of concerning. And so we're in the process of updating the website, try to get some verbiage out that way. And then I've also been working with our IT. So I'm hoping what is done here, we can also do it in Franklin County, where the advisory board brought up that with the COVID, it's hard to get out with some of these clients and what have you, so they can go onto the website and be able to process, put a voucher in. It doesn't get approved. It will just be, we were going to have it like they can input the information, then once they hit submit, it will go to Media, who is our program specialist, and then she'll do the final approval. So we're hoping that maybe that will get some people to get out there and process more vouchers. I'm also processing or working on improving, like I said, the website. So hopefully we can get some advertisement out that way as well.
Yeah, and Keith hooked us up with
Mike.
With Mike.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just put a plug in too.
Oh yeah, and with who handles the Franklin County website, and they've been great.
Yeah.
And so
awesome.
right now we're working with them on kind of what information we'd like added to the website, so that it's real easy to access, how to access the fund, some of those things, and I think, and so that's a shout out to the Franklin County IT, because they've been awesome. They've been really easy to work with. We had the Veterans Opportunity Center, as we reached out to them and talked with them about, they have contact with a large degree of our veterans. They've got a weekly podcast that Steve over there plugs the Veterans Relief Fund, tries to answer questions for any vets that would be eligible. So we're trying to get the word out a little bit more you know, we spent probably less than half of what we spent last year, and it's frustrating because I know that there are vets out there that are in need. It's just a matter of trying to access them that we struggled a little bit with. I don't know how much of that's related to COVID and how much of it, yeah, I don't really have an explanation for that. You guys have any questions about any of what we talked about?
Yes, Kyle, I do. I have a couple questions. According to the policy 1.2, it says a levy rate shall be established by the Board of Commissioners based on the estimated demands of the fund and statutory limitations for the levy. What is the statutory maximum and minimum?
That would have to get back with you. I don't believe that that the county is taking in the maximum levy. I'll honestly, I don't have the answer to that, Commissioner Didier. I can certainly get you what the levy is. I can find that out and email that to you later today.
You know, I'm looking at this fund, and it looks like, you know, we're going to be up to 439,971, and can it be zeroed until we are in need of more funds and then re-implement it? And we're supposed to review this biannually or annually?
We review it annually during this process. It's something that my staff, we talk about regularly, about ways to access, to reach out to the vet.
Well, I think that with these new board members, I know one of them in particular, Scott Smiley, he knows a lot of veterans that are in need, and I know you're related to him, so you know that his heart is in it, and he wants these veterans to get assistance. I would love to see this money used, but right now it's just accumulating. It looks like we're just getting a bigger pot of cash here, and there's nowhere to go with it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So Kyle, Commissioner Peck, there really are three pieces here. There's the need, which I think we all agree is probably greater than is being met.
Yes.
There's the capacity to raise funds, and then there's the administration mechanisms, vehicles, call it what you want, to get the money in the right hands. Of those three, the need and the revenue stream are clearly not the problem. The problem is the mechanism. So I think that's where we all need to focus. Would you, when you send that information, send it to all three commissioners, please. And also, if you would please, share thoughts on what the statutes allow in the way of broader use of these funds. I have a sense that we may be constraining ourselves excessively and that there may be some broader applications where we can use these dollars. But I don't want to speak to that off the top of my head without refreshing out of the statute, but I think you know where I'm going.
No, and I would agree with you. I think there are additional services that we can certainly look at. Typically, we take guidance on presenting those from our advisory board. Again, I think that's something we need to shore up. I know there has been talk about there's a veteran service officer. And I think that's been one of the areas that we lack in quite frankly in both Benton and Franklin counties. There's been conversations about the ability to pay for a service officer through the Veterans Relief Fund. My hope was to get the Benton County and the Franklin County advisory boards together to talk about what's good for, because we have, it's a community, our vets are they don't necessarily, even though the funds are specific to the county, the vets are live in our community. And I know it's something that we've got advisory board members on the Benton County board that live in Franklin County that we'd like to have maybe represent Franklin County if we're in a situation where we need to increase our advisory board members. But I know there has been other conversations about accessing the fund to help help pay for a position that would allow the veterans, the service officers to help with claims for services. And so, you know, again, that's something that was been talked about prior to all the COVID stuff, and then it got kind of put on the back burner, and that's something that, you know, when we get a new advisory board put together, that we would have a conversation with them about, see if it's something that they think is worthwhile, that we would want to bring to the Board of Commissioners, or get their thoughts on it. So there are some things that we've talked about. I think COVID kind of created some problems for some of that, but that and you know, again, our advisory board participation. It's difficult when it's my staff and one person at the meetings. So my staff and Tim from the auditor's office is always present too, which is always nice and helpful.
So Kyle, I'm looking through the list here. I don't see anything on here for prosthetics for veterans. Is that part of this? Is there a?
It's not part of the policy right now. That's something that we could certainly look at adding. I think there's a lot of services that we could look at adding that would be beneficial to vets.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want me to move on to 188. So the phone number 188, it's referred to as part of our document recording fees, $21.63 for our homeless housing fund. And so our document, just as a reminder, our document recording fees, every document recorded in the county there's a surcharge that some of the funds go to that address housing issues. Some of that charge goes towards the state housing fund, and the county retains a portion of that as well. The fund is divided into two funds: the affordable housing and the homeless housing. The 188 is homeless housing, is 2163. Is the focus of that fund is on services. The other fund is on capital projects, bringing units to the community. And so we have programs that we oversee in-house. The fund is geared. This fund, we get dollars from the state, and these dollars are used to fill gaps in our housing system. And so some of the dollars we use to help support the operations at the domestic violence shelter and My Friend's Place, which is the youth shelter. And then we have some dollars contracted out to the Veterans Opportunity Center for a veteran housing program for women and families. And we contract some dollars out to Goodwill and Oxford House and CAC, and then the rest of the dollars we use internally for programs to help fill the gaps. And so what I'll do is I'll let Tammy talk about the financial part of it, and then if you have specific questions about the programs or any of that, then you can kind of go from there. So I'll point the camera back here at Tammy.
Okay, so on the 2163 that Kyle just stated, or the 188, currently, as of September 30th, we have 429,016. The girls are really doing a great job on these programs. Like Kyle mentioned, the ones that we delegate out, but our local ones that we keep in-house are like the mental health, jail, disabled housing, emergency housing, substance abuse, the young adult, and then we just added for this year the low barrier. So our revenue, what we projected or what we got last year was $566,177, and we're already at $495,757. But we're having no trouble spending the money. There's a lot of need out there. Our two top ones that we use the most is probably our mental health and our disabled housing. But our young adult is doing great too, so we're really excited about having that grow. Do you guys have any questions for me on that?
Stan, what, right off the top there, professional services, what does that entail for 400K?
So professional services would also be one thing that I was thinking of is the ones that we operations, and so then that is the professional services that we take from the local dollars and goes into our account to help pay for.
They'll pay for the management of the program,
Yeah.
and then also for coordinated entry, which we have the staff that will screen individuals for housing programs, either refer internally or to one of our allied agencies. We have some of that is some of our coordinated entry is paid for out of our consolidated homeless grant, and some of it is paid for out of our document recording.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking, you're not using it all, evidently you're dropping almost 150K this year, so, you know, I'll tell you, we ended up, this has been kind of a unique year, obviously, for everyone, but there are, you know, we ended up getting additional dollars, you know, and so we got state and federal dollars, you know, we got for both Benton and Franklin County, all the dollars coming combined, but we got $2.6 million in the eviction rental assistance program. And so then we had 5 months to spend that. And so, you know, the focus has been on spending the state dollars over our local money. And so typically, we have no trouble whatsoever, in using our local document recording fee dollars. You know, we got another in ESG, which we haven't had ESG dollars in this emergency solutions grant. We got another, $3.6 million.
Yeah.
And so we got, you know, although there's a lot of economic concern, you know, the state and the feds recognize that as part of that, housing is going to be very difficult for a lot of people. And so, you know, the ERAP dollars came as a result of the eviction moratorium. And so, so our focus has been spending those dollars over the local dollars.
Also, we get graded on that. So like Kyle was saying, like the ERAP and what have you, we had $2.67 million in 5 months. If we don't use it, then that's going to count against us for any other ones that they'll award down the road. So that's why we're focusing on that to get a good report card, so then we put some more money state and federal.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned mental health. What line is mental health listed on this?
Sir, it is 4528.
4528. Okay.
Yeah, it's permanent support housing rentals, it shows there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, sometimes people don't want to have, it's better to have it permanent support housing than mental health, but that's what it's for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions regarding that?
I'm not talking about 2060 yet. Oh, okay.
Kyle?
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, Brad Peck. The 402,000 for professional services, is that consistent with recent past years, or is that elevated because we spent additional money to get help to try and move the federal money out the door?
So you're talking about the additional dollars that we allocated.
Now, let me ask it again. The 188 fund, the 4100 line, this year is budgeted for 402,000. So that would have been budgeted this time last year before we knew about COVID. So I'm assuming that number is about what we've been budgeting for the last few years.
Yes, and also that 4100 is also the ones that Kyle just mentioned, like Goodwill. All those are on the 4100 as well.
Right, and so my real question that I'm driving toward is, does that include just administrative costs, or is that money that's actually going out to recipients as well?
It's going out to the recipients, like Goodwill,
right.
yes, yeah, all the professional services.
When I'm talking about end user recipients, not the Goodwill staff or the Goodwill organization.
No, it's direct services. They have, yeah.
It's for rental assistance
Yeah,
and,
utilities.
yeah, all of that, all of the services for the clients.
Yeah.
Just wanted to confirm we weren't spending 40% on that.
No. No, sorry about that. Good question.
Okay, move on to the next one. So the fund number 189 is our affordable housing fund, or you may have heard it referred to as 2060. It's the second part of the document recording fee, and the focus of that is capital expenses. And so we have a steering committee that we solicit representation from the cities, and Keith participates in the steering committee for the county. And so we hold usually a couple of meetings at the beginning of the year. One we is to identify what's in the fund, and how much the steering committee is recommending releasing by way of RFP. And so, so we ended up, the only contract that we have, well, the only allocated dollars that we have for this year, we haven't gone into contract yet. The steering committee met, they heard, we had, I think, 4 or 5 presentations. There were some good presentations. There were a couple of issues with a couple of them that disqualified them. The one that the steering committee had recommended funding was you may be familiar with the Pasco Haven project with the Catholic Charities. Came before the board and talked about that. And so the ask was, I think we had, the steering committee had allocated, or we RFP'd $190,000. Again, what they decided the fund was equal to $127,413. It's kind of a weird number, it's not real round, but it was essentially for the purchase of land for the Pasco Haven with Catholic Charities services. And the general feeling, although some of the other projects were good, that this one, the dollars went a little bit further than some of the other projects in terms of the number of units that would be included in it.
Kyle, are you being nice when you say went a little bit further, or was there a real difference between these?
There's a big difference.
So it didn't just go a little bit further, it went a lot further.
It went a lot further, yeah. And I certainly don't want to, the other projects that presented, they were great projects. This by far was more bang for the buck.
I understand, but I know your personality and you're a nice guy. You don't want to offend anybody. And so you sort of milquetoast some of this language. And in this case, I happen to know that the ROI was substantially better, and the quality of our decisions really derives heavily from the quality of the input from you. So, kudos for trying to be a nice guy, but give us candid information because we need it to make good decisions.
Okay.
That's a compliment, not a criticism, but you can't sugarcoat it for us. You got to give us the real deal.
All right, and so this project that the steering committee recommended is a multi-million-dollar project. It's for 50 units versus I think the other ones. I think the highest was like 4 or 5 units, and so a lot more value. The part of this Catholic Charities when they apply for additional funding, their application is scored. There's a point total when they're applying for tax credit dollars and housing trust fund dollars, and so they get additional points on their application with local money, involved in it too. And so they felt very confident. The application, we haven't gone into contract with them yet because they haven't secured the other funding. The application is due, I want to say, within this month, and they should know by the beginning of the year if they receive the additional funding. If they receive the additional funding, then we'll go into contract for the 127,000 and change. And then they'll purchase the land and move on from there.
All right, I just, quickly, we've got a 186 also, we've got affordable housing for all.
So the 186 is I've come before you guys a couple of times talking about substitute House Bill 1406. It's, just as a refresher, it's retaining a portion of not a new tax, but it was retaining a portion of the state sales tax, for local governments to address the housing issues. And so, really this first year, there isn't much, if anything, in the fund. I think it just started being collected. And so, I envision treating it very similar to the 2060 account, where the steering committee that oversees that will also provide recommendations on spending for that. The uses are very similar to the 2060 fund, to the affordable housing fund, in that their capital expenses, they have some additional things that they can use, but I think, the vacancy rate in the counties added below 2%. So really the capital projects are what our community really needs. There just isn't enough housing out there, affordable housing for someone. There just isn't enough.
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot to report on with that, other than, we'll be addressing that fund, we'll be addressing that more at the end of the year in terms of, it's hard to project even how much money it's going to accrue. It's based off of sales tax.
Yeah. How about the 190, the alcoholism? It's supposed to be a new fund?
It's not new. We've had it for a while. It just became something that we since my office, since the split in the MOU that was developed, it's historically has been collected in the Benton County Auditor's Office. And now Franklin County is collecting the dollars for the cities in the county in Franklin County. No?
No.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
Can I jump in?
I'll let Tammy do it. Apparently I was wrong on that.
Sorry.
We bill for it. That's right. My bad.
Yeah. So I bill for it when you means we. I bill for it, and so it's done quarterly. And before, you guys, when we had the split, it kind of got mixed up, and you guys were keeping it, but now they're wiring it back to us again. And so I have, I have a tracking sheet, so I keep separate line item what is Benton County, what is Franklin County. And so we collected on behalf of Franklin County and the cities of Franklin County, $24,251. And so our expenditures that we're planning on using is for, it's called Hidden in Plain Sight. Maybe you want to describe that.
Yeah, and so here, and again, I think some of these dollars, we have a contract with an individual that that performs that service, and it's a training, and it's for parents, and it's a trailer made up to look like a average teenager's bedroom, and it's to help them learn really what to look for, from a drug perspective, from so that so the stuff that is just in plain sight that there could indicate a problem. And so it's historically we've had a contract for that with the ESD, and we just funneled the money through the ESD, and it seemed a little bit ridiculous that we were paying an admin fee to the ESD to do something that we could just contract directly with the person. So we started doing that this year, and again, think COVID kind of messed some of that up. She hasn't been able to do as many trainings as were originally planned. One thing we did do, though, is we hired a new coalition coordinator for the Pasco Discovery Coalition. And so there was some onboarding that we used some of these funds to help train that person to get them up to speed to where they could, do the job. And again, they started in kind of tough times with school being virtual and a lot of the things that they do. They just had to learn new ways to do it in today's world. So.
Unless there's some other questions from the commissioners.
I actually did
We
have
have
some.
one more.
I did have
the
some.
only other fund that I wanted to talk about, unless there were questions specifically about that.
Well, the title.
Keith has one.
Yeah, actually, Tim's gonna jump in here if that's all right, Commissioner. Go ahead, Tim.
Yes.
I just had some information that was asked early on the Veterans Relief Fund on the assessment of that. The RCW, which I have on screen right now.
We're having a hard time hearing Tim.
Pull your mask down and talk right into the microphone.
The RCW for the Veterans Assistance Fund allows for a collection of between, and on the screen right here, I have it, between 1 and 1/8 cents per $1,000 of assessed value and 27 cents of assessed value. And so currently we are at, in the levy book for the assessor's office, we're at the 1 and 1/8 of per 1 and 1/8 cent per 1,000. So we're at the very lowest part of that range for our assessments, for a total of $104,000 a year. That was for 2020. But we're at the bottom of that range. It does look like there's some mechanisms that you can do to lower that even further, but that's generally on the lower end of the range, 1 and 1/8, and it goes up to as high as 27 cents. So we're nowhere near the cap.
Thanks, Tim. Does that answer your question, Digger?
Yep, thank you.
I think
Kyle, you got something else for us?
Well, I think Commissioner Peck might have had a question. Is that?
Yeah, Kyle, the title on the alcoholism 2%, where's that title coming from?
Comes from just the RCW.
That's the language in it? I don't.
It's liquor and profit
Yeah.
excise tax?
Yeah.
Liquor and profit excise tax.
And that's 2% of gross sales in our county, is that what that is?
County and the cities, yeah.
Right, so from the state, I download the quarterly report and then I plug it into a spreadsheet. And that's how I bill it quarterly. So I have to wait because one comes 1 month and the other one comes, of course, the next month. So then I bill it when I get the two together and bill it out to the city. And of course, the county automatically sends it to me.
Okay. I was trying to get a question in there on the 189 account about the second half of the doc recording fees.
Okay,
Could you clarify who's actually collecting that now for Franklin County?
oh, okay, so your 2163, the 188 and the 189, the 2060, you guys still keep the money. I bill you guys when there's
Expenditure.
when there's expenditure, when a contract goes through, then I submit it to you.
No, the question is who is collecting it?
You guys.
It's a document reporting fee and we record the documents, but earlier, and I tried to get this question in sooner, but the question was just unclear when you were talking about somebody had been collecting it or you'd been collecting it,
Oh,
the county had been
no.
collecting it?
I'm sorry, yeah, because they went boom, boom, boom all at once. So what we had it, before the split, I used to get a wire from the treasurer's office and they would tell me how much was Franklin County. That was on the the 2%.
You
Not
get that from, do you get that from the Franklin County Treasurer or the State Treasurer?
No, the auditor's office, Franklin County Auditor's Office wires it to the Treasurer's Office, Benton County Treasurer, and then they send me a sheet.
That's never been the case though with the document recording.
No, it's not from a record, but you guys keep everything.
Well, and that's kind of what I was asking, is we got like 3 different mechanisms working here, and when you said treasurer, it wasn't clear whether it was the Franklin County, the Benton County, or the state, or.
I apologize.
No, that's right,
I'm sorry.
admittedly, I have a penchant for details, but at least you know this.
Yeah, no,
Commissioner Cook, the only other thing that I wanted to comment on was expenditures that we have that are supported with the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities Millage Fund. And so we do support Special Olympics, the Special Olympics program, and it's for $9,600 a year. And then for our Sharon Adolphson is our the parent coalition coordinator for developmental disabilities, and so a portion of her salary is paid for by the state, and a portion is paid for by the counties. And Franklin County's portion of that per year is $1,800. But I just wanted to make sure that that was included, just so you know that we do have 2 expenditures coming out of that fund.
All right. So Kyle, I also have a question on the veterans. When you're looking at other opportunities for us to get those funds into the hands of veterans, would you also just take a note as to whether or not we can use those funds to purchase either supplemental drug and alcohol or mental health services? I realize that much of that can and sometimes is covered under VA benefits, but as I know with military care and benefits, oftentimes a lot of stuff is not covered, or it's only partly covered. So if you maybe broaden that scope and just see what local services we have that we might be allowed to use those funds for.
You bet.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that'll take a little bit more digging. But what I can do is, I know you wanted to I'll send you an email later today with the 3 applications that we have for the advisory board, and then I'll do a little bit of research on this, and I'll get back to you either by the end of the week or the beginning of next week with whenever I get the answers to the other questions.
Anything further for Kyle and Tammy? Thanks for your time today.
All right, thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you. So, Tiffany, you're up, please.
Tiffany, you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
There you go.
Can you hear me okay?
Can't tell if you're talking or not with that mask on.
Yeah, I was talking. Thanks for meeting with us today. Here to present for the 2021 budget. As you know, Benton Franklin Superior Court Administration has 7 full-time judges, 3 full-time court commissioners, and 18 staff. Beginning 2021, the percentage rates for Benton and Franklin County split would be a 71% for Benton County and 29% for Franklin County. So it's going to go up just a little bit from this past year. The adult drug court rates will stay the same. You'll see in my supplies and services, I did ask for a little bit of money to help support our judicial books. Our repairs and maintenance line items. I was informed by IS that they were going to be changing the way they billed, and they anticipated our services being at $1,500 billed to us for next year over the course of the year. That's not been a line item we've actually maintained in the past. My contract services is increasing a bit. I have 2 contract interpreters in Franklin County. Well, for Franklin County, this is just for Franklin County. And so they requested additional monies in their contracts. The good news is the reimbursements that we receive from the AOC each year, it increased this year. I just got word last week. Last year we had $31,260 in reimbursable money from the state. It's going up to $45,946 for this year. So that's $14,686 of increase for us to get reimbursed for interpreter fees. I did also ask for funds for our bailiffs for their uniforms, their jackets that they wear. Any questions as to those line item increases?
You know, that bailiff's jacket's going on for years. Benton County supporting that?
Well, I asked, our presentation for just last week, I did ask, but we haven't gotten word on whether or not they will fund it. So.
Yeah, I think this has been going on probably for at least 6 years. It's one-sided, so.
Right.
So Tiffany, Commissioner Peck, couple of quick questions. The Superior Court law books, is that actually books or is that Westlaw or some other?
It's the actual, so the judges several years ago reduced their what they actually get hard copy books for. This is just for the state rule and then their evidence rule. So it's like 2 books that they get for the benches, and they're just really expensive, and they go up every year, the cost of them, but their resource that they felt they needed the most on the bench with them when they're in court.
Yeah. So sounds a little bit like profs who write a book and then make you buy it for your class.
Yeah.
I realize it's not exactly the same, but
in the past, I've been able to just pay its fund.
well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to ask. The 700 on 1,000 is a 70% increase, and I figured you must be supplementing the current buys. You mentioned an increased funding through AOC up to 40-some thousand. I'm on the wrong page. I'm not seeing that in the resource accounts. Can you?
It's documented up in the under the Washington State Admin Office Court. They usually reimburse us. We keep a log for them to outline all of our interpreter expenses, whether it's freelance or our contract. Last year, they awarded us reimbursement up to $31,260. This year, they're actually increasing that up to $45,946 for reimbursable interpreter costs. So that's towards the contract.
So the increase to reimbursable ceiling is not hard money to us. So you're budgeting 32,000, but it's reimbursable up to 45. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, the 32, that was an estimate based on last year's. I just got my interagency agreement from them last week that told me I was getting quite a bit more funds. And when I put in for it, they do send us cash, and then I send it over to the treasurers for deposit and to go back into the funds, not directly reimbursed to us, but back to the county.
So that amount again was 45,000 and what?
$946 total for the next year.
And so they're actually going to send us those funds. We'll put them on deposit in the county, and then you draw on those?
Yeah, so every quarter we send in our interpreter billing, and they reimburse us, and we keep sending in for reimbursement until we've utilized all of our funds.
And if you don't use them all, then do we send them back, or do they carry over?
Well, we always go well over the reimbursable, so we get all of the money that is awarded to us.
Okay, and where would I find that 45 on this budget sheet? Because I see a 2020 working budget. Maybe I'm on the wrong line. I'm looking at the 165 account, Washington State Admin, Office of the Courts. 2020 budget is 15,000. And then it shows a preliminary 2021 budget of 32,000, but I'm hearing you say 45,000. So can you?
Stephanie just said she only got this number last week, so it's not reflected on this sheet we're looking at.
So update the 32 to 45 is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any further questions on the 165? Anything else we need to know on that, Tiffany?
That's just the current, our current supplies and services. I didn't know when you wanted me to move on to our actual request.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay. I'll start with our request for a full-time bailiff position. The last time we got a bailiff position was in 2003, and that was when we added a 6th judicial officer. We now have 7 plus 3 court commissioners, so 10 judicial officers and only 5 full-time bailiffs. We have 2 on-call bailiff positions, but we have not been able to fill those since the last one left in March of 2019. So we are, just for our caseloads are going up, our hearings are going up, and right now our 5 full-time bailiffs cannot manage our up to 10 courtrooms we're running on a daily basis. They're often running between 2 or 3 courtrooms. We're seeing more and more security issues come up, so leaving a courtroom unattended is not a good idea. So we are asking for an additional 6 full-time bailiffs. If you look at my attachment B1, you'll see that every year the cost for us to use Tri-Cities Monitoring, which is a security service I use when I need extra help, has been going up every year. 2020 isn't a very good numbers due to the fact that we've been limited in our court, but for just the 2 months and 1 week, we still used almost $9,000. That was pre-COVID regular court hearing numbers. But at the very bottom, you'll see the total cost for 1 year for Franklin County support in a full-time bailiff would be $16,980. I already went to Benton County's public safety tax budget, and that was back in April, and they did approve it contingent on whether or not Franklin County could support a full-time bailiff. So I do know that I have approval on Benton's side for that. I'm just now requesting the support from Franklin County.
Okay, I think that's kind of unknown at this point. That may depend on our total budget, so.
Right, I understand that. So that's one of my bigger requests. My next request comes to our adult drug court, our Bi-County adult drug court. We currently have a full-time secretary, and we are requesting that full-time secretary get converted into a second case manager. Adult drug court has an adult drug court coordinator, and they have 1 case manager and then their secretary, but they want to convert that secretary into a case manager to help with the caseload. The adult drug court is a 70 participant program. 20 is supported by Franklin County, and the other 50 is supported by Benton County. And they just need the extra case manager to help with that caseload. The annual cost for Franklin County Share to convert that secretary into a case manager is $4,816 for 1 year. And I do have our adult drug court coordinator here to expand on our adult drug court program for you guys. Here's Marshall.
Good afternoon. So drug court's been around for 17 years now. I've had the opportunity to travel around the country and talk to various different drug courts throughout my time working for the counties. I've never encountered another drug court that has as good recidivism numbers as we have. 87% of our graduates did not reoffend their first year. 76% of our graduates have no new misdemeanor convictions. 18% of our graduates have no new felony convictions since graduation, and 39% of our graduates have no new misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, felony convictions, or no convictions since graduation. A lot of our graduates get misdemeanors for driving infractions, unfortunately, so that's a bummer, and that hurts our recidivism numbers, but I've never talked to a drug court with as good a numbers as ours, and we currently do more than any other therapeutic court program with less. Our people get paid less as well. I lost a case manager to another therapeutic program because they could go and start out making another $500 a year working for this other area. So I really believe in drug courts. I was born and raised here. I appreciate the support you guys have given us throughout the years. I'm passionate about this, but we're trying to do a lot with a little right now, and it's hard sometimes. And I just really appreciate any consideration you can give us. We have a very solid program. We do amazing things. We help people get better jobs, and that ultimately puts more money back into the tax base, which helps the communities. We have people doing crazy things in this community. One of my people is one of the top administrators of one of our local hospitals. We have entrepreneurs doing things here. So there's a lot of value in helping these people turn their lives around. And with this pandemic, we know more people are dying right now than they have been, and drug problems are going through the roof. So I just really hope and pray for some consideration in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall.
Marshall, a couple of questions. This is Commissioner Peck.
Yes, sir.
Same question I've asked every year for 12 years. Your recidivism rates are based on the number of graduates that you're able to track, or based on 100% of your graduates?
Based off who we can track. Unfortunately, if they leave their state, we can't track that data. So,
and I'm certainly aware of that. Do you have any statistics on the number of graduates that you are able to track?
I don't, but the next, I could ask, and we could look into that and get to those numbers. It's taking a while.
Okay. And so, having asked those pointed questions, I want to communicate that I think that the drug court is a great program. I think it's a good value and a good investment. I've supported it for a number of years now, and I'll continue to support it.
Thank you.
But I do think that when we report these numbers and we say 87% no recidivism, that we really probably ought to also communicate what percentage of the people we're able to track. I realize that some of them may be reoffending and sitting in jail in Portland or in Texas or somewhere else, and there are some ways to track those, at least at the felony level. I'm not suggesting we should spend the time or the money or the effort to do that, but I just think it would be a little more transparent if we did it that way. Doesn't mean the program isn't a good investment, doesn't mean I won't continue to support it. Second question is, we're at 20 positions now for Franklin County. That is not an annualized number, as I understand. That's the number of positions that we fund, and as people graduate and move on or don't, and vacancies come open, we have a waiting list to fill those in. Am I correct?
Yes, we do. And it oscillates just depending on the condition. This COVID's made it really hard to get drug-affected people to follow through with three basic requirements. To get screened for drug court, they have to meet with me to do a need/risk assessment. They need to meet with our defense attorney, and then they need to get a drug and alcohol assessment. So there's three things they have to do. And unfortunately, some of these people, after multiple weeks, just will simply not follow through. And then so ultimately, if they won't follow through after a prolonged period of time, we will remove them from our waiting list. So I can give you a current waiting list numbers if that would help you.
Well, I think it'd be informative for all of us if you've got them handy. Just shows the amount of demand.
Yeah, so right now we have 11 Benton County people and 2 Franklin County people. A couple, maybe 4 months ago, I think our waiting list was sitting around 27 people. But ultimately, if people don't honor the courts and the counties with this, we consider this a golden opportunity program. If they don't ultimately rise to the occasion, we do say goodbye to it. It's not fun, we don't want to, but if we simply cannot get them to comply with us, then we ultimately will say goodbye.
If they can't comply with the requirements, then the potential for recidivism probably goes up. So I understand why you can't serve everybody.
It does, and I do want to apologize, Mr. Peck. I know you want those raw numbers, and I want them too. I'm lacking certain mechanisms to track down that information. I would love to have a holistic look at that number too.
Yeah, and even if you just said 87% of the people we can track, no recidivism, and the global or the total population that we've served is X. That just puts it in perspective. I don't think anybody's expecting. In fact, if you had told me, and I know you never would because it's not true, but if you had told me that 87% of everybody that's gone through the program had not, reoffended, I just wouldn't have believed it. I know that the number has to be far less. We're dealing with human beings under difficult circumstances. So I get that the number for the global population is a lot less. I'm just curious what it is. But enough about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions?
No, thanks, Marshall.
All right, thank you.
What else do you have for us, Tiffany?
My last bit is with regards to my current staff. In the end of December, and it came back in January of this year, the Benton County HR ran a salary survey for us, and the numbers came back that several of our groups were, their salaries were below average. And when I say groups, I'm talking about like our case managers, our bailiffs, court reporters, and myself. So on my attachment B3, I listed out the different groups. And it says like where they're at now and what step I was suggesting that they be at. And I did the full price, which is the difference between the current baseline and what it would be to bring them up to the salary per the salary survey. And then I take it out between Benton's 71% and Franklin's 29% share. I also put in there that if we were able to fund the salary adjustments for my current staff, that I would be willing to give back the counties my 2 part-time positions, which is $10,000 a year in that line item. So the total annual cost, if we were to adjust the salaries of the staff per the salary adjustment scale I gave you, would be $15,678 for Franklin County's share for 1 year. And that salary would cover 16 staff.
Okay. Right. Again, like I say, we'll have to see where we're at when we get to the end of the week or end of next week, but, $1,000 a head is pretty reasonable to catch up with salaries,
So a couple of questions here, Commissioner Peck. My perception is, let me put it that way, that our employees are very dedicated people, and that while they may deserve to be paid more, and maybe we'll be able to do that, maybe not, I'm not persuaded that paying them a little bit more is going to get increased performance. I think they're dedicated people who are going to give us what they can give us. So that kind of brings me to a natural perception that these 2 part-time positions that you're willing to give up for those salary increases, and I get it, the nobility of it, but it kind of implies that those part-time positions aren't needed, irrespective of the salaries.
The part-time positions that I'm giving up, they're dedicated to our on-call bailiff. And I haven't been able to fill those positions since March of 2019. And it's because of the low salary.
Okay, all right, that's helpful. Good explanation.
And it doesn't reflect this on here, but I do have a court reporter position that I haven't been able to fill for over 2 years. And again, I believe it's because, and I've heard firsthand from other court reporters who talk to other reporters, it's because the salary is so low.
Yeah, no, I think you make a very good point. And I appreciate the extra information. That does make sense.
Okay. Anything else for us, Tiffany, at this point?
That is it.
Okay.
Commissioner Cook,
Yes.
Could I ask one question, Tiffany? Tiffany, I've been told, but I haven't independently verified this, that the Benton Franklin Superior Court is one of the few court systems in the state that requires armed bailiffs, and that most counties do not have armed bailiffs. Could you verify whether that's accurate, and first, and secondly, if that's the case, maybe why that's the case, and if that's costing us more money to accommodate that requirement from the bench?
Right, that is accurate, Keith. And I should have said that. If you heard the salary survey, the bailiff salary it's not really, it was hard for us to determine an accurate and suitable salary for a bailiff because our bailiffs are the only bailiffs in the state of Washington that are armed. They also carry tasers. All of our bailiffs are retired law enforcement. So whether it be State Patrol or Richland PD or some other department, they all are retired law enforcement. I'm not sure why no other county requires this from their bailiffs, but we do, and I think it's very necessary in our community. Our bailiffs have had to admit, and they train with the Sheriff's Department. They are commissioned by both the Benton and Franklin County Sheriff's Department. They train with them to keep up on their firearm qualifications, the taser training, and they haven't had to use their firearm or their taser, but they've had to use the first aid training in court sessions. But I think that it makes them more, it projects a better sense of security in our courtrooms and for everybody that's there, whether it be the court staff, the judge, or the people visiting our court as a litigant or as a visitor. Our bailiffs are really great, and they give us some great security, and we really do appreciate them, and we like the fact that they are trained in the firearm and they carry firearms and the tasers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiffany, anything further?
I don't have anything further for you guys unless you have any more questions for me.
Questions?
Yeah, Tiffany, the administration for court employees is through Benton County with Benton County benefits. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tiffany, thank you very much for your time today, and Marshall.
Thank you for your time. We
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to JJC.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Afternoon.
This is interesting. It's an interesting year, right?
Yeah.
So, I'll start off, and then Sheila can jump in when I get something wrong, or you guys have a really hard question, and she'll answer it.
You'll take the easy ones, huh?
Yeah, that's me. So, as you know, our operations budget is based on a 5-year average of at-risk youth population. And that is, we've done that for quite a number of years now, and it's probably the best way to go about looking at a split. But that, last year it was 35.2 93, and this year it's 35.98. So it's gone up a minimal percentage, but not less than 1%. So, and then our baseline budget is actually decreased by $12,000, and that's due to we gave up one part-time position because there just wasn't enough money there to make it work. And then we've also had several retirements of people that have been here quite a long time, and so that ended up with a decrease. So that's I'm not seeing that before. That's a good thing. We do have a couple modest requests, I believe. We're looking for additional funding. One request is just really permission to move forward with something. So I'll go through those, but the one thing that's been a problem over time for us is our detention overtime. Okay. And for many years, the baseline budget for that has been $87,000. Okay. And we've continually fought with that and gone over it. Jennifer, when she was here, and now Sheila, have just been magicians within the budget of finding ways to cover our overtime. We monitor it closely. Sheila and I monitor every month for the last couple of years. I've been doing that. And then within our detention center, our detention manager and supervisors are on top of it. But, it's a real balancing act. We have to cover sick leave. We have to cover vacation. Then we might get an employee who gets hurt on the job and they're out for several months. We may have someone go and get their knee replaced and they're out for a couple months there. And so we have to cover that, and depending on how we do it, it's just a real balancing act. And one of the things that we do, and especially now with our population is about half of what it usually is due to this COVID, we will partially either not cover a shift or partially not cover a shift. That made sense. It can also work the other way around, where we have a full shift and then we have maybe a youth that's suicidal who we need someone to sit and watch, and that's their only duty, is to sit and watch that kid and make sure he's safe, or we're safe. So a couple other things will go into, it's difficult for us to attract and retain qualified detention officers at the current pay scale. And the other thing we use to manage our overtime is we have relief staff, or an on-call list of folks that we find and train, and they can be called in, for 4 hours or 8 hours. We can only work them 28 hours a week because they're part-time. We've moved their hourly wage from $13 to $16 an hour, but it's still really hard to find those people that it works for. And then oftentimes they'll get in here and we'll train them up, and then they'll find a more permanent job and move on. So those are the things that go into trying to manage this detention overtime. And it's been frustrating for many years, and this was the year we decided, we need some help with this. So the ask from Franklin County is $27,752. Is there any questions on that?
Questions, gentlemen?
Daryl, what line is your overtime covered in?
It's labeled as 1925. I don't believe it's labeled like that but in the budget narrative that we turned in. That's what the printed out budget looks like on our side. Like through the accounting system that Benton County uses.
Maybe
because we don't have
Anderson online with us.
It's through the operations budget, if that's what you're wondering.
It's all in
Department
the,
171.
we have it all in the same line. It's 4991 Juvenile Services, Benton County.
Okay.
So there's a,
Was that Tim?
That was Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Tim. And, so Daryl, this asked for an additional 41,000 on that line. Is that all for the overtime?
It's actually 27,752.
That's Franklin County's.
Franklin County's portion, yeah.
Okay. So, Tim, the sheet in our workbook that is Franklin County 2021 preliminary budget, the line that you just cited, 4991, it shows a 2021 request of an increase of 40,908. On bi-county programs, are we reflecting the full ask, the full budget impact, or just the Franklin County piece?
It's just the Franklin County piece.
So, Keith, maybe you can help me understand, if the total ask is 27,752, and I'm looking at an ask for an increase of 41,000 roughly in the juvenile services Benton County, what am I missing here?
I think the difference is our facilities request.
There's some
Okay.
facilities requests, and then there's a 5% admin fee as well.
Okay, so my earlier question was, is the overtime included in that number? I don't think I asked if that was all overtime. So what I'm hearing is the 40,908 is a composite of the increased salaries and admin fee and overtime and everything rolled up.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for helping me stay on track. The Benton County and the bi-county program numbers, I think it reflected a little bit differently in my sheets, and so it's just a little bit more difficult to really follow every number.
Yes.
So, okay, is there any further questions on the overtime? The second request is around our facilities. So everyone knows that our administration building is over 40 years old. Our detention center now is 22 years old. We stopped calling it the new part because it's breaking down as much as the old part.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything is either past or nearing its end of life, basically. This building is deteriorating. We were going to the Benton County budget meeting on Thursday. I'm walking out the door and our facilities guy says, "Hey, we just lost another HVAC." So that's $7,000 to replace that. And we're 93% expended in our facilities budget, and it's just November. So we have 2 months to squeak by with possibly nothing. That probably won't happen. So, Keith, I'll be calling. The other part of this is, things are going to continue to get worse with this building. We have a cooling tower that's probably, if it operates in the spring, it will take an act of someone. And that's $150,000 to replace that. We have 18 HVAC units in detention that are going to start going offline. We just replaced 2 of them. That was a $17,000 bill. And we have 18 more that are, the Apollo guy said, you know what, you're going to go, and it's just a matter of when they're going to go. And so I don't know how much duct tape and billing wire it's going to take for that. Then we've been working on this electronic security system for detention. I haven't got the final number on it yet, but that's going to be between $700,000 and $800,000. So, what we're asking to do, and this is just a mere Band-Aid, but to increase our facilities budget, and Franklin County's portion of that would be $11,200. But I think the bigger issue here is the elected officials getting together and figuring out what we're going to do with this building, or both our buildings, really, because they're not waiting for anybody. They're just falling apart.
So Daryl, on that point, you know that Commissioner Delvin and I have been working the legislature. We've brought tours of the governor's staff through the facility. If you've got any ideas on things that we're not doing, that we should be in that regard, please don't hesitate to give me a call and let me know. Jerome, too.
So that would be our request for our facilities. Then the other request, I guess, just looking for permission, really, is not costing the county, either Benton County or Franklin County, anything, is to increase two positions. One is our legal process supervisor. And our legal process unit runs all the court paperwork and court process. They just basically are the heartbeat of our court. And they make sure they take referrals from law enforcement, from prosecutor, from probation counselors, schedule things for the court, make sure everything's working. And now, including the new WebEx and all the different things that go into a court process these days. So, the legal process supervisor, like I said, they're supervising 6 people. They, to my knowledge, this position has never been reviewed. It's continually acquired more responsibilities and more sophistication over time, and it's currently a grade 12, and I'm requesting to move that up to a grade 16, which is comparable to our probation supervisor, who manages roughly the same number of people. And we're able to do this through our admin fees and our grants and contracts that we feel are sustainable. And that is, over a 2-year period, that's $9,960. So the next position is our accounting assistant 2 position. So within our accounting department, we have Sheila, and then we have an accounting assistant 3, and we have an accounting assistant 2. So they're all unionized. The legal process supervisor is not a union employee, and obviously Sheila's not. But the accounting assistant 2 and 3 roughly do different functions, but their value is the same, really. One does payables, one does receivables. What I'm not able to do is have them cross-train and cover for each other. One of the brilliant things Sheila did, as good leader should, when she came in, she learned the positions underneath her. And she quickly came to me and said, you know what, there's really no difference between these 2 people in terms of the sophistication and experience needed for their jobs. It's just a matter of, I can't use one to cover for the other when the other's out, otherwise we're in trouble with the union. So for the past, since COVID hit, I guess, we've been...
Yeah, April.
Yeah, we had, April. We've had our accounting assistant 2 working out of class. So we've been paying her out of class to cover some of the things that the 3 couldn't when she was out. So it's just necessary in today's world to have parity along that, because you don't know who's going to be out on another 10-day quarantine or 14 days or whatever. So anyway, that position to do that for 2 years is $6,950. And like I said, we believe we have the dollars to do that and are able to sustain that. So, and both these positions are critical. So even if we were to have really significant budget cuts, these aren't the 2 positions that would be going. Any questions on that?
That's covered very well, Daryl, thanks.
Okay. And then, just one last thing around all this COVID stuff. We really appreciate the support from both counties around the CARES Act and for, Keith, to listen to what we're going through and help us with finding solutions for that. And so, we've been able to update our court process. We've been able to provide better laptop or better computers that function so we can function remotely in a better way. So, but anyways, all that's been appreciated, and for the most part, for what we can do, we're doing pretty good over here. So,
All right. Well, we appreciate all that too, Daryl. I know it's been, I don't know how many years now we've been trying to look into replacing that whole facility, and it's just hard to come up with that kind of money just rapidly. So hopefully we can get the legislation to help us. Anything further for us today?
oh, that's all we have unless there's questions.
Okay. Questions, gentlemen? Seeing any at this point, thank you both.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Tiffany. That wraps up our budget for today. I think we are running until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Unless there's something else that anybody has.
Mr. Chairman, are we going to recess these meetings or adjourn them? We running this all as one continuous meeting? Not that it matters, just curious.
Well, I think it's a budget workshop has been listed for all week for months, so.
For one. So instead of adjourning, we might just recess till tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
We open tomorrow morning at 9. And we have OPD and commissioners. We shouldn't take too long. And then at 10, we've got the auditor. So, and as I said before, after we're done tomorrow afternoon, I need to head for Olympia. And we'll be there Thursday, so. Anything else? If not, we are wrapped up for today. Thanks, everybody, and see you tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.